DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Then we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show. This daily masterclass you'll listen to right now that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. In today's topic, we are getting into part 2 of 5. We are talking the top 21 in demand, must have, do not play around, do not leave home without it, soft skills that you will need in your life moving forward. Doesn't matter what industry you are in, doesn't matter what game you play, doesn't matter if you don't even know what you're going to do with your life. You're going to need these soft skills because, as we talked about in yesterday's episode, the introduction is what this whole list is about. These soft skills transfer from industry to industry, from job to job, from person to person, from group to group. So it doesn't matter what you do, these soft skills will be necessary and useful for you anywhere that you go. Everybody got that? All that said, if you haven't listened to yesterday's part 1, listen to that where I introduced the topic. Now, since you already listened to it, now we're going to get straight into continuing our list. We're on part 2, starting with soft skill number 5. We are still on the personal skills. And skill number 5 is inquisitiveness. And this is from Ionos. This quote is them describing how they describe the person who already has the skill. This is how they do it. So, quote, as an inquisitive person, you have an inner desire to experience new things and to get to know the unknown. Finding out information is as appealing to you as finding out the interests of others that you've never really talked to before. Inquisitiveness does not always have positive connotations in our society. People who are too curious are often regarded as annoying. A healthy curiosity is an important motivation for people to seek new challenges and to explore previously unfamiliar territory. In the workplace, this means that you are interested in tasks and skills that initially have little or nothing to do with your job profile. Close quote. Inquisitiveness, this is the question asking. That's what inquisitiveness means. You're willing to ask questions. You're curious. You're wondering why things are how they are. You are a brain picker. You try to get to the bottom of stuff. You want to find out why people know what they know, how they know what they know, and if it's actually true. I am a naturally inquisitive person. I've had people describe me as a brain picker, a person who will just ask question after question. When somebody tells me some information and I don't know exactly how they came about it, I ask them, how do you know? How do you know that to be true? And this description that they gave here is absolutely right. That sometimes people get annoyed when you ask them, how do they know something to be true? Often because what they're telling you is some bullshit. They just decided that it's true. They can't explain how they know it's true because they can't prove it. So then they get mad because you're questioning them and they know it's going to expose their bullshit. So inquisitiveness is a key soft skill because it keeps you learning. See, the wise person knows that they know nothing. All right, this is Socrates. Was it Socrates? Socrates, maybe it was Aristotle, maybe it was Plato. I don't know. I get these Greek guys all mixed up. But it was one of them who was known as, I believe it was Socrates. He was known as, or widely regarded as, the wisest man in all the land. And he went around to find someone who was smarter than him. But what he found was everybody was so stuck in their knowledge, or at least what they considered to be knowledge. He realized that what made him so smart was the fact that he didn't believe he knew anything. He said, I know that I know nothing. His genius was in knowing nothing because he was always asking questions. This is why the Socratic method is not giving people the answers, but it's asking them questions so that they can come up with their own answers. Let them get their own insights. Any of you who is any kind of coach or mentor, you know this is one of the biggest aspects of being a good coach is not giving people all the answers, but actually providing them with the right questions that they wouldn't know of without you. That's the value, is the questions, so that they can come through with their own breakthroughs and it's their ideas so that they can become self-sufficient. An inquisitive person, and this is the part that they have bold in here on Ionos' website, an inner desire to experience new things. If you ever hear a person, or you have ever used the phrase, I am stuck in my ways, that's the opposite of inquisitiveness. All right, you have no desire to experience new things. Whether that new thing be a new idea, whether it be new information, whether it be a new perspective, whether it be a new opinion, or a new action. These are all new things that your mind has to be open enough to be willing to experience. And here's what I know to be true. When people stop wanting to experience new things, again, whether ideas, opinions, perspectives, actions, any of these things, that's when they start to get old. You become an old person as soon as you get stuck in your ways and you don't want to experience anything new. You can be 25 and old. You can be 75 and young, as long as you keep your mind open. If you keep your mind open, you're reading, you're listening, you're asking questions, you're learning new things, you're seeing what other people in other generations are doing, you're keeping your mind fluid, you're allowing your imagination to be free, you can stay mentally young, even though physically, by relatively speaking, you'd be pretty old. That's what inquisitiveness does. It keeps you young. Finding out information to an inquisitive person is as appealing to them as finding out the interests of other people that you never really talked to before. You want to know why people feel how they feel. Why do they think the way that they think? Why do they look at the world the way that they look at the world? This is the way that you learn. This is how you learn new things, by asking questions and then shutting the hell up and letting other people talk. That's inquisitiveness. The best communicators out there are not the people who are the best orators, who give the best speeches, who are the best at putting words together. The best communicators are people who are best at listening after asking the best questions. Now, being able to speak and put words together is valuable, yes. But you learn the most. You can't learn while you're talking, as they said. You have one mouth, you got two ears. All right, which means you should be listening as twice as much as you speak. Taking in twice as much as you, maybe even 4 times as much, because you got 2 eyes as well, as what you say. Maybe even 5 times as much, because you got a nose too. You get the point. A healthy curiosity is an important motivation for people to seek new challenges and to explore previously unfamiliar territory. When's the last time you explored some previously unfamiliar territory? When's the last time you read an article that you knew from the title was going to fly in the face of your beliefs? When's the last time you listened to someone talk who had a different opinion from you and you actually listened to hear what they were saying to try to understand why they have an opinion that's different from yours, other than them just being a complete idiot, that you could understand why they had that opinion? I'm going to let you think on that one for a minute. In the workplace, they say, Inquisitiveness means you are interested in tasks that may have little or nothing to do with your job profile. In other words, you're willing to step outside of your role and do something that may not necessarily be your job. Why? Because you're an inquisitive person. This is the type of person who never ever uses the phrase, "That's not my job." You ever been somewhere and somebody said that? "That's not my job. That's not my department. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't know what that is." There are some businesses that you go in, I can't even think of which ones specifically, but I've had this happen on both sides, where I'll go into a business and I'll ask one of the employees, I'll say, "Hey, can you tell me where I can find the paint?" or something like that, like a Home Depot or something like that. And the person will say, "Yeah, if you go to, we'll be standing in aisle 2, and they'll say, "Yeah, it's in aisle 12 in the back on the left." And they'll look towards aisle 12, and then I'll say, "Okay, thanks." And then I'll start walking towards aisle 12, and they'll stay right where they are. But there are other businesses where you ask somebody, "Hey, where's the paint?" And they'll say, "Oh, well, it's in aisle 12 in the back on the left. Hey, let me walk you over there and show you where it is." And they might not even work in the paint department. They might work in the plant department, but they'll walk me over to the paint department. Why? Because they are taking, first of all, commitment and ownership of their job. Second of all, even though it's not their department, they're showing the ownership and the inquisitiveness. And again, they're not even asking the question. I'm the one who asked the question. But they're willing to do something that steps outside of the realm of what they are actually paid to do, which is selling plants. They're going to go try to sell me some paint. Why? Because this is the ownership aspect of it. They're doing something that is not in their job role profile, but they're going to do it anyway. This is inquisitiveness, even though they're technically not asking the question. You understand what I'm saying here? How inquisitive are you? When's the last time you just asked them questions? When's the last time you were just curious about things? I have many episodes here on the show where I've talked about questions. A lot of times I talk about bad questions, but there are some good questions. Episode 306, I talked about 3 questions to knowing yourself. Episode 291, the 3 questions of leadership. Episode number 76, what do I have to do is the wrong question. Episode 1741, just a month ago. Why asking the right question is more important than having the right answer. That's a very important episode. If you have not listened to that one, listen to it twice. Episode 1494, how to ask better questions. Episode 1059, the loser's question is, what should I do? And episode 1030, why you need to be challenged, questioned, and pushed. All of these things are important when it comes to asking questions. Understand something, people. I wrote a book called Ask Yourself a Better Question for a very simple reason. The quality of the questions determine the quality of the answers. If you ask yourself poor questions, you will give yourself poor answers. You will have a poor life. When the quality of your questions improve, the quality of your results will improve. So please pay attention to the questions you're asking yourself and understand you're always asking yourself questions. We call it thinking. You ask yourself a question, you give yourself an answer. If you're giving yourself poor answers because you're asking poor questions. If you want better answers, ask better questions. Go get my book called Ask Yourself a Better Question at workonyourgame.com. Let's move on to number 6 here of 21. We're on part 2 in these episodes of the top 21 in-demand soft skills. Number 6, self-discipline. And oh yeah, before I get to explaining this, I forgot it again. I have a text line where I want you to send me a text message and let me know the most valuable insight, the most valuable light bulb moment you got from everything that gets shared here today. My text number is 305-384-6894. Once again, 305-384-6894. So now, point number 6, self-discipline. We open every show talking about discipline. I have a book on discipline called The Mirror of Motivation. I did a whole chapter on discipline in my book, Work on Your Game. It is the foundation of the Work on Your Game philosophy. Is the discipline of what? Everybody, let's say it together. Showing up every single day to do the work. Let's read what Ionos has to say. Quote, "You are in control of yourself and you know how to act. It is hard to distract you from your main tasks. You react confidently to unforeseen events and do not lose sight of your goals. Certain phases of your day-to-day work require concentration and focus, which you master with self-discipline. The basis of intact self-discipline is an ongoing process of self-control. By always critically questioning your actions and correctly arranging your priorities, you achieve a high degree of self-discipline. At work, this means that you prioritize your tasks appropriately and successfully control anything that could distract you, such as private interests and idleness." Man, that's rich. It's a lot that they said right there, rich in a positive way. I mean, every single sentence here is something that we talked about on this show at one point or 3 in the past. Number 1, you're in control of yourself. Self-discipline is self-control, folks. When's the last time, or how often rather, is a better question, have you lost control? How often have you lost control of yourself, your own thoughts? Napoleon Hill said, even if you can't control the outcome of a situation, one thing you can always control is the way that you think about it, the way that you look at it. Self-discipline is self-control. You do not get distracted from your main tasks. I get people asking me all the time, Dre, how can I really be more focused and avoid distraction? I tell them, well, you're asking the wrong question. We just talked about that. We talked about inquisitiveness. If you ask the wrong question, you're going to get the wrong answer. You do not avoid distraction. All right, that's a bad question. To even be looking for ways to avoid distraction, you are asking the wrong question. What you need to do is ask yourself, how do I increase my focus? And you may say, well, Dre, isn't that just semantics? I say, yes, it is semantics, and semantics matter. So I did a whole episode on that. In episode 1183, I told you that focus is easy, but distraction is hard. In episode 677, how to stick to your purpose amidst life's possible distractions. Episode 573, do not get distracted by the nonsense. Episode 423, double down on what's working and don't get distracted. These are all things about getting away from the distraction. What you really want to do is find your focus. And as they have emboldened here on Ionos' website, certain phases of your work require concentration and focus. What did I tell you? The 5 forms of investment, people: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. You master focus with self-discipline. The basis of intact self-discipline is the ongoing self-control, as we just talked about. Now, since you are always questioning your actions, critically questioning your actions, in other words, holding yourself accountable, not beating yourself up, but holding yourself accountable. And there's a fine line between the two. You arrange your priorities. First of all, you got to have some priorities to arrange them. That means what goes first, what goes second, what goes third. You achieve a high degree of self-discipline by doing these things. Many people don't do them. They don't critically question themselves. They give themselves a free pass for anything they do, even when they do something stupid and something that does not turn out the right way. They don't hold themselves accountable, and they don't arrange any priorities, meaning you wake up every day, it's 20 things you could be doing. You have no idea which one is the most important. Therefore, you never get anything important done because you don't know what's important. And then you're wondering where the hell the time went. All right, this is a lack of discipline on your part. At work, it means, as for a disciplined person, you prioritize your task, and you control anything that could distract you. In other words, you are so focused on your focus that the distractions do not even land on your radar. And if they do, you put them in their proper box until it's time to deal with them. That is what self-discipline is about. And understand that something that I've told you in the past, discipline creates confidence. All right. It says here from Ionos, you react confidently to unforeseen events and do not lose sight of your goals when things go off track. That's what discipline is about. The more disciplined you are, the more confident you will be. So while most people don't go looking around for discipline, everybody's looking for confidence. If you want to be more confident, here's the secret to it. Be more disciplined. The more discipline and self-control you have, the more confidence you have, because you will know that you can handle anything that comes your way and understand that things will come your way in life that you don't have planned out. So the episodes where I've talked about discipline that I want to refer you to here is episode 1158. Discipline cannot be spot trained. All right, it's just like a person who you got flabby arms. You can't just go to the gym and use the arm machines. All right, you got to work your whole body to train that area of the arms. All right, you can't just work arms and then all of a sudden you have big buff arms and then you're flabby everywhere else. You ever seen a person like that? No. You know why? Because it doesn't work. You can't spot train discipline. You can't just choose to be disciplined here and there. You got to take the whole package, which I give you here every single day. Episode 1157, right the day before, how to impose discipline on yourself. Episode 1056, why discipline matters more than passion. So any of you saying, well, Dre, I need to find my passion in life. How do I make something out of my passion? What I'd rather ask you is, what is your discipline? Because that matters a lot more. Episode 912, can too much discipline be a detriment? The answer is yes, if you are using it the wrong way. But I got something coming on that in the very near future. Episode 831, discipline does not mean perfection. Being disciplined does not mean that you're perfect. Doesn't mean you do everything, quote unquote, right. Doesn't mean you do everything, the way that other people will want it to be done. There is a fine line for that as well. So listen to that episode. Episode 757, as we talked about how discipline creates confidence. Episode 197, discipline is lather, rinse, repeat. Episode 1675, why your discipline feels like punishment. Why does it feel like you're beating yourself up every time you engage your disciplines? Because you're doing it the wrong way. I help you out with that in episode, again, 1675. And just 30 days before that, episode 1643, how to make discipline easy. You want discipline to be easy for you? Go listen to that episode. In episode 1202, it's the last one I'll give you. Why you struggle with discipline. Why discipline is kicking your ass. I explain to you exactly why, and you can reverse engineer that to know what not to do so discipline stops beating you up. Let's move on to point number 7. Today, again, we are in part 2 of 5. We're talking to 21 in-demand soft skills for all of life, no matter what you do. Number 7, self-reflection. Self-reflection is defined by Ionos as, quote, you can critically evaluate yourself and your work and learn from your mistakes. At the same time, you know when you did a good job. Self-reflection is one of those personal skills that has the most internal effect. At the same time, the effect can also be felt on the outside. Self-reflective people are quick learners and grow with their tasks. This also includes knowing what you cannot do. For good reasons, certain tasks are better left to experts and should not be performed by non-professionals. In other words, things like back-end programming or maintaining a server. Self-reflective people run less risk of overestimating themselves and causing damage. Now, this is a very fine line soft skill. I'm out of the quote now. Quote is closed. Self-reflection is you being self-aware, knowing who you are as a person, know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, know when to speak up and know when to shut up, know when to stand up and know when to stand down. That's self-reflection. It is looking at your actions, being aware of the results of your actions and owning those results. Again, knowing what effect you've had on them and knowing what you should do more of, what you should do less of. In the business world, we call this sometimes a SWOT analysis. When you look at your SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are they for you? A self-reflective person critically evaluates themselves and their work and learns from their mistakes. What's the last mistake you made at work, and what did you learn from it? What are you going to do differently based on what you learned from that mistake? If you can't answer that question, you are not self-reflective, because nobody's perfect. I have yet to meet a perfect person. If they exist, point me to them. At the same time, you can give yourself credit for doing a good job. But it has an internal effect. The more you are self-reflective, again, you know when to stand up and when to stand down. Because a self-reflective person learns quickly And when you take on a new task, you can grow with that task because you're developing new skills in the process of doing it. And it also knows, again, what you cannot do. There's a difference between I cannot and I should learn. I can take this up and I can get this knowledge. I can add to my knowledge set by doing this thing. And there's also I cannot do this and it would not be worth the investment to try to learn and do this thing. For example, there's something like I don't want to learn how to edit audio. So I have an audio person, Nico, who's editing this audio right now, and they handle that. I don't want to learn how to do that. If I needed to, I could add that to my skill set, but I don't want to because I don't want to make the time investment. So I'll pay somebody else to do it. That's just a simple equation that I calculated in my head. Now there are other people, there are people who have podcasts who do their own audio, and that works for them. But this is just not works for me. That's not what works for me because again, self-reflection. You do what works for you, I do what works for me. At the same time, again, like I said, I could develop that skill if I needed to. Now, there may be another skill such as, let's see, something like writing headlines and sales copy. I was not always a good copywriter, but once I learned that it was a skill and I learned that it was useful, I made the calculation that it was worth it for me to invest the time and energy into learning how to write good copy so I could write better, more clear, and more compelling sales pages so I could get you to get copies of my books like The Mirror of Motivation, which you can get for free by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. All the words on that page, which we know as copy, those are all written by me. And you can let me know how good they are or how bad they are based on your actions, whether you get that book or not. But that's a skill that I decided it was worth it for me to learn. Now, I get on airplanes every now and then. I have never learned how to fly a plane, and I don't plan on learning how to fly a plane. So therefore, every time I get on the plane, I'm at the mercy of the skill of those pilots because I can't fly that plane. If something happens to the pilots, I can't do shit. Either that plane's going down or somebody's going to have to figure it out. That's not a skill that I'm going to learn. So I'm self-aware enough to know what skills I could develop, what skills I should stay away from, and what skills I am going to develop. Self-reflective people do not overestimate themselves and cause damage in the process. At the same time, it doesn't say this here, but I'm going to say it. You don't underestimate yourself and decide that you can't do something just because you weren't willing to try. So don't limit yourself with your self-reflection. This one is, again, this is one of those fine line skills where you have to know when you're being, quote, realistic and when you're just holding yourself back and beating yourself up. So self-reflection, being able to know who you are as a person, self-evaluating is really another way that we could describe this. In episode 1130, I talked about dealing with the self-doubt of your creation. In episode 1035, directly related to self-reflection, is your self-scouting report. Any of you who play sports, or especially the coaches who listen to this show, you do a scouting report for every team you play against. You should do a scouting report for your own team. All right, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your own players, of you? Does every other team in the conference know all the plays that you run? Do they know all your calls? They know your tendencies. They know what you like to do on an out-of-bounds play. They know what play you like to run on third down. You need to do a self-scouting report so you know all your strengths and weaknesses the same way your opponents know them. Because in the professional sports world, every team knows what every other team is going to do. They know all the strengths and weaknesses of every other player. How does a player still have a great game if the other team knows every tendency that the player has? Execution. But you need to know what those strengths and weaknesses are so you know what they know so that you can kind of play the chess game a step ahead of them playing the chess game. That's your self-scouting report, episode 1035. Episode 979, we talked about improved self-care. One thing in self-care is being able to look at yourself, know what you're doing. Episode 960, how to stop screwing yourself over and cease self-sabotaging. Any of you got an issue of self-sabotaging? Again, that's the flip side of self-reflection. Being critical of yourself, but not beating yourself up. Again, very fine line between the two. So listen to that episode. Episode 911, the power of self-distancing. What is self-distancing? It's being able to step outside of who you are as a person and look at yourself as if you're looking at someone else. So you remove the emotion from the situation and be able to really see who you are and what you're doing in a different light. And that is a skill. Again, episode 911. Episode number 868, we talked how self-belief is the most important athletic skill, and in episode number 770, how to have ridiculous levels of self-belief. How to make your self-belief indestructible is episode number 589. We talked about that a lot of times. In episode 558, do not get too self-satisfied. Meaning, don't get too high on yourself. You give yourself credit for doing a good job, but don't start looking at yourself as if you're unbeatable. Don't start looking at yourself as if everything you do must be perfect, because that's when things will start going the other direction. And last one, episode 263, step up your self-awareness. How can you be more aware of yourself so you know what you're actually about, what you're really doing, and what you're really not doing? And it may not be what you think, but you have to have that skill of self-reflection for this to work in your favor. Next one. Again, we are on part 2 of 5. We are talking the 21 most in-demand soft skills today and moving forward. Number 8, confidence. What do we say every day opening the show? Confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically. From Ionos, quote, while self-reflection requires you to be aware of your weaknesses, confidence requires you to recognize and implement your own strengths. Self-confident people never sell themselves short, but know their value. A strong sense of confidence spreads to many other skills and areas of life because self-confident people have a solid character. This means that they are not afraid of new challenges or of expressing their opinion. A lot is said here. We know how much I value confidence. I wrote a book on confidence. It's called The Super You. I have a course on confidence called ASAP Confidence. You can get it at workonyourgame.com. I did a whole chapter on confidence in my book, Work on Your Game. I just explained to you not too long ago today how discipline creates confidence. I know from firsthand experience, when you ask people what is one internal skill, one soft skill that if you could change in any way, what would it be and how would you change it? The overwhelming number one answer is I want to have more confidence, a higher self-esteem, a more healthy self-image. Everybody wants to have more confidence because we all consciously or unconsciously understand when your confidence goes up, the things you're willing to do go up, the way you feel about yourself goes up, the things you accomplish go up, and when you feel more confident, other people feel more confident in you because confidence is not a thing that, again, because it's a soft skill, it's not something you can hold in your hand. You can't measure somebody's confidence with a ruler or a scale, but when somebody is confident, you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their movements, you can tell by the way they walk, by the way they talk, the way they conduct themselves, the way that they speak, that that person is confident. Confidence is currency. I've explained this in a previous episode of this show. You want to be able to sell yourself, confidence will do it for you. But you have to step your confidence up. You have to have a certain level of confidence to get people to buy into your confidence. And I'll tell you about some episodes in a minute. Let's look a little bit more into how Ionos defined confidence. You are aware of your weaknesses, but at the same time you recognize your strengths. So this is, again, towing that line. And this is where many people come to use the phrase humility in an incorrect way. I have a TED Talk titled, Too Much Confidence is Not Your Problem. Because a lot of people look at the way that Ionos laid this out leads to a lot of people looking at confidence in an incorrect way. That, yes, I do need to know that I'm good and I can do this thing and that thing, but I shouldn't be too high on myself. I shouldn't believe in myself too much because then I'd be doing something wrong. False. I disagree with that completely. This is not what Ionos said. This is what I hear a lot of people saying and I'm disagreeing with. Yes, be aware of your weaknesses. Know what you can do and what you can't do, but you need to know what your strengths are and implement them. If you treated your strengths the way you treat your weaknesses, in other words, overemphasizing them, giving them way too much power and credence over your actions, we'd be building condos on the moon right now if everybody gave their strength the same attention that they gave their weaknesses. So you want to talk equality? All right, let's balance that out. Let's start there. Self-confident people do not sell themselves short. Self-confident people know their value. I talked about this in episode number 915. There are only 3 ways anyone makes money. I don't care who you are, you're listening to me right now, there are only 3 ways you can make money. Here they are. Number 1, you can accept what they offer you. Number 2, you can negotiate between what they offer and what you want. And number 3, you demand it. That's it. There's only 3 ways you make money. Anybody who's made $1 today, you made it one of those 3 ways. You accepted it, you negotiated it, or you demanded it. That's it. If you have a product for sale and you say the product is $30 and somebody comes on your website and pays $30 for it, that was level 3. You demanded it. Now, if you say, hey, I got this product, how much do you want to give me for it? And somebody makes you an offer and you say yes, you accepted it. Now, if you say I have this product, I'm thinking $30, what do you think? And they say 20 and y'all agree on 25, that's a negotiation. When you can set your own price, that's when you're at the level of demanding. But that requires a high level of confidence. You don't have a high level of confidence, you can never demand anything. Self-confident people do not sell themselves short. They know their value. And understand something about knowing your value, folks. When you know your value, that's not only what you get, but it's also what you give. I.e., If you want to receive big investments and you want people to make big investments in you and in what you're offering, you need to be making those big investments in yourself at the same time. Are you doing it? A strong sense of confidence spreads to many other skills and areas of life because self-confident people have a solid character. True confidence emanates from the inside. It's not walking around with your chest out and your head up and your eyes forward. Yes, that is a show of confidence, but that's not what confidence is about. Confidence comes from the inside, and because you feel confident on the inside, because of the discipline that you have, then you can show the signs of confidence on the outside. So remember the principle: be, then do, then have. So people who have true inner confidence have a solid character because they built it from the inside out, and they're able to conduct themselves in a way that people see them as confident because of what they've done on the inside, because the inner work that they've done. This means that person is not afraid of new challenges. They're not afraid of expressing their opinion because they believe in themselves. They're willing to stand on what they say. And even if they're expressing an opinion and they decide to change their mind, confident people are willing to change their mind. They're willing to change their perspective. They're willing to change their behaviors when they get new information, new experiences, and new thoughts. Confident people are willing to do that. People who lack confidence get a certain belief in their mind, and no matter what information, experiences, and thoughts are presented to them, they never change their mind because they're not confident enough to say, you know what, I think differently now. So how confident are you? When was the last time you changed an opinion? When was the last time you got a new experience that gave you a new perspective on a situation, and thusly you had to at least say to yourself, you know what, I think about this situation differently now because now I've seen something that I hadn't seen before, therefore I had to change my thoughts. I had to change my opinions. I got to change the way I look at this. When's the last time you did that? How many people do you know who have ever done that? And if you don't know any, what's wrong with your circle? What's going on there? Why are you violating the law of association? These are open questions that you should probably come up with some answers to. Confident people are not afraid of new challenges. They're not afraid of going places that they haven't been before. So you can see how confidence and inquisitiveness and self-reflection and discipline all kind of go together. Because when you're a confident individual, you're willing to try something new. That requires you to be inquisitive, right? And trying new things is part of your self-discipline. All right, you're in control of yourself in trying that new thing, but you're willing to expand your comfort zone. And self-reflection, you know what your comfort zone is. You have to be confident to know. You have to be confident to self-reflect. Because people who don't have confidence won't self-reflect. Because when you self-reflect, one thing you're going to notice, because you're an imperfect human being, a mere mortal, you're going to notice that you're not perfect at everything. People who lack confidence are not willing to self-reflect because they are afraid of what they're going to find out. They're afraid of what they're going to see in that mirror if they self-reflect. So a person who is willing to self-reflect has a high level of confidence just to even have the thought of doing it in the first place. You see how all this stuff goes together? All of it works together, folks. So this is why these soft skills matter as much as they do. So let me give you some episodes on confidence that you can refer yourself to here between now and tomorrow's episode. Episode number 846, True Confidence, comes in disconfirming yourself. So this is confidence and self-reflection matched together. Episode again, 846. Episode 769, where I discuss how too much confidence is not your problem. Episode 757, how discipline creates confidence. Episode 524, confidence is what you do and what you stop doing. Episode 200, born fully confident but taught to hesitate. Episode 25, how to 25x your confidence today. Again, episode 25. Episode 1684, 6 essential tools for confident public speaking. Episode 1475, how to maintain your confidence membership. And I'll give you one more. Episode 1307, having the humility to earn your confidence. Understand that humility is the most confident, being humble is the most confident thing you can do, because when you are humble, you realize that you need to continue to work on your game because you are not yet perfect. You keep showing up, doing the work. What is that, people? We call that discipline. And what does discipline do? Discipline creates confidence. So you see how all of this stuff intertwines. It all weaves together. You cannot spot train any of this. When you get one, you get another. And to have one, you got to have the others. All of these work together. All that being said, let me recap these points and remind you that you should be make sure you're listening to every episode in this series, because I guarantee you this is going to be life-changing for some of you if you really take it to heart what we're talking about. So these are soft skills number 5 through 8 we're talking here. We're still on the personal skills. Number 5, inquisitiveness. Number 6, self-discipline. Number 7, self-reflection. And number 8, confidence. Now, again, I have a text line. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. Send me a text message. Let me know what has been the most valuable insight, the most eye-opening thing you got from today's 4 tools that we talked about. And how has it helped you? What has it shown you or made you think about that maybe you hadn't thought about in a while or you never thought about before? Send me a text again, 305-384-6894. And tomorrow we will go into point number 9 and moving forward on the 21 must-have soft skills in life moving forward. And tomorrow we're going to get into the social realm. So we just went over the personal realm. Next, we're going to get into the social skills in the next set. So I'll see you on tomorrow's episode. Make sure you send me a text between now and then and listen to those other episodes that I mentioned. All of them are listed down below in the show notes wherever you are listening to this, and work on your game. Dre all day.